Well, howdy, traveler, and welcome back. Oh, don't mind me, I'm just whittling myself a spoon. You wouldn't happen to have a whetstone, would you? Yeah, I thought not. Oh, don't trouble yourself. It's my own damn fault. Lost mine a few weeks back. I don't recommend whittling with a dull blade, but a wise man once said, a dull blade makes you choose your cuts more carefully. Well, I reckon you're here for a story then. Go on and take your seat. Let's see what comes to mind here. Have I ever told you the one about the Hollow Mound? Yes, down south, in the wetlands. There lived a whole community of folks down there, 16 families the way I heard it. And one of them had a daughter named Lizzie. She's a bright kid. And Lizzie liked the way Jasper squealed when she scratched just above his ear. And she knew she wasn't supposed to be loving on the pigs. Daddy had said so. But they were just too cute to resist. Jasper was her favorite, you see. He had a crooked ear and eyes that never fully opened. Even for a pig, Jasper was exceptionally lazy, and Lizzie reckoned that was what she liked most about him. He leaned his whole body against the fence sometimes, like just standing up was too much to ask of him. But come feeding time, he was always the first to the trough. He was a lazy little glutton, and Lizzie loved him. Now Jasper was very observant for a lazy pig, especially when it came time for Daddy to take one of them to Hollow Mound. He never did it inside of the others. That would just be cruel. But she could tell that Jasper knew all the same. In a way, you could say that Lizzie and Jasper were kind of the same. She'd been around long enough to know how it works, and just because you name a thing, don't make it yours. One day, probably sooner than Lizzie would like, Jasper would be nothing more than a thick cut of bacon on her plate. That was just the way of things. "I think Jasper knows what's to come," Lizzie said to Ruth one morning. Ruth just nodded and kept mucking the pen. She was the eldest now, ever since Micah didn't muck pens anymore. What's to come was what they always said. Lizzie supposed it sounded better than what was actually happening. No one explained it, not really, but it was a phrase that hovered in the air, behind every meal, every chore, every birthday. It was a phrase with weight, and everyone said it, not just Lizzie's small family. The Millers down the road, the Dawsons across the creek, the Buckthorns who lived on the other side of the cotton field, they all said it too. What's to come? It was like a ghost story told by children that they never finished, and yet everyone knew the ending to. It wasn't just the kids, though. The other parents of the community said it too, in Sunday school. Brother Jose would talk about what was to come, too. He'd go on about the usual business that Lizzie had grown up hearing, a vengeful group of scorned gods, plagues, famine, fire and brimstone, the works. But what always caught Lizzie's attention was when he'd mention it. What was to come? It's a harsh world we live in, children. We should all say our prayers tonight. With grateful hearts, we beg of thee, our Holy Father and our Divine Mother, to take pity on our worthless souls. We are not worthy of your light. Please, Father, please, Mother, protect us all from what is to come. Most kids would say the words right back at him, but not Lizzie. She was too busy listening to what he was actually saying and thought it was a strange idea. What did she have to beg for? Why did any of them need to beg? Made little sense to her, but questions had a way of sticking around out here, kind of like Jasper, while answers seemed to disappear, like the rest of the pigs that Daddy took to the Hollow Mound. The names of the pigs were carved in the barn wall real neat next to the door. One line per pig, all the pigs from all the years. It was a long list. Daddy carved them with the dull little knife from the mantel box. Said names made them all real to the earth. Each time a piglet was born, a new name was added to the wall, and each time Daddy butchered one, a name was crossed out. And once a name had been crossed out, it was never uttered again. But Lizzie knew there was another set of names, and the church walls written upside down were the names of the children of the town. Her name was there, so were her siblings: Micah, Ruth, Lizzie, William. Micah's name was crossed out. One morning late last year, Lizzie woke up and he was gone. Daddy had said he'd strayed too far from home in the night. They never found him and assumed he'd been eaten by wolves or a bear. As awful as it might sound, that was just something that happened on the frontier. "I remember when Daddy added your name to the wall," Ruth told Lizzie once. "As soon as you were born, Daddy handed you up to Mama, wiped his hands, and went to the church to scar your name." "But why does he write the names upside down?" "Daddy says they have to read it from underneath." Lizzie didn't ask who they were. She already knew. The leftovers. The pigs on Hollow Mound. She'd seen them once, late at night through the mist. The thin, gangly ones with hook-shaped teeth and skin like milk left too long in the sun. Their ribs showed through their pale skin, and an angry plume of steam burst from their moist snouts. When she told Daddy what she saw, he just told her not to go playing in the dark and to leave the Hollow Mound be. Afterwards, that night felt like a dream, but Lizzie knew it most definitely was not. The sight of those moonlit and sickly boars stayed in her mind for a long time afterwards, and the memory visited her often. There were rules in the house, even if no one ever spoke them out loud. You fed what you raised, you carved what you named, and you never asked about the draw. The draw happened once a year, right around the time winter started. This year the days grew cold earlier than usual, and late one night Lizzie woke to floorboards creaking. She padded quietly out of the kids' room and saw Daddy pull his coat on. Mama was already dressed, her hair braided and pinned, and baby William cradled in her arms, fast asleep. They weren't dressed in their Sunday best, but well enough to make an appearance in public. They whispered things to each other that little Lizzie couldn't hear, but Daddy wrapped Mama up in a hug. "Be strong, darling," he said. That much Lizzie could make out. He wiped her tears, and they left the house, making sure to shut the door as quiet as they could behind them. Lizzie thought about waking Ruth, but she would have just told her to go back to bed. She always seemed to know what Daddy would have wanted, even when he wasn't there. Like a little mouse, she snuck back into her room, popped her heels into her boots, threw on a jacket over her nightgown, and then she was out the door in time to see Daddy's lantern in the distance. They were a good ways out, walking along the edge of the cotton field. Their shadows stretched long across the grass towards Hollow Mound. Lizzie followed, a good distance behind, and staying low to the ground, hiding behind what she could as she went. As she ducked behind the plow by the shed, she glanced toward the mound where she had seen the leftovers that night that felt like a dream, but most definitely was not. It was veiled in a thin mist, but the thin-legged beasts weren't there, thank the gods. The light of Daddy's lantern was fading away as they walked through the path in the woods. At the center of the community was the white-walled chapel. Its fence was iron, and in the backyard sat a single oak tree with a tire swing the kids played on after Sunday school. Mama and Daddy weren't alone. Mr. Buckthorn and Brother Jose met them at the door, and they each shook hands. Brother Jose opened his arms wide to Mama and gave her a gentle hug. Lizzie knew what Daddy looked like when he was putting on a brave face. That was the face both he and Mr. Buckthorn were wearing this night. She wondered if all men made that same stern face when they were so obviously frightened of something. Once they had all moved inside, the double doors shut behind them, and Lizzie moved from the woods. She crept up close and quiet, and like a puppy reaching its snout up over the lip of the table, she opened the doors a crack and peeked inside. The room was filled with lanterns. They were all there. Daddy stood shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Buckthorn, while Mama and Tessa sat in the pew together with clasped hands. Kim and Coraline Dawson stood across the room. Coraline wore a ribbon in her hair, and Kim stood beside her in a wool vest and work trousers, a cap pulled down low over her short-cropped curls. She had the same stern face that Daddy wore. There were others there, all the grown-ups from all around the bend, the dual heads of the 16 families, most of the women with babies in their arms, and every one of them, no matter what their faces said, shared a look of worry just under the surface. "Thank you all for coming, friends," Brother Jose said from the pulpit as his brown robes draped from his widespread arms. "I won't lecture you all. There are no sacred words for what is to come this night. What we do here is anything but sacred, but it is a necessity. As sure as the crops need water, the forces beneath have needs too. You know of what I speak. You know it's true. 98 years ago, a bargain was made, and we gather here in their house to honor that bargain." Brother Jose set a tin cup on the pulpit. Out of its mouth were the ends of what looked like pieces of straw. 16 straws, each family draws, as always. We do not run from it, friends. Lizzie's chest went tight as one by one each of the men stepped forward and drew one straw each. Her heart beat so loud she feared the leftovers might hear. She felt a shiver run down her spine. She wanted to look over her shoulder and make sure she was alone, but Daddy was walking up to the pulpit now, and she didn't dare look away. When he stepped up, he hesitated. Brother Jose stared at him and nodded, and Daddy reached in and pulled the straw. As it lifted from the mouth of the cup, Lizzie could see its end was blood red, and Brother Jose shut his eyes. Daddy froze. The red straw trembled in his fingers. He took a breath and turned to the rest of the room. As everyone saw the marked straw, there was a wave of mixed emotions that swept over their faces. For an instant, it was as if each of the adults could breathe again, but no one celebrated. A cold stillness fell over the room, heavy and mournful. Mama hung her head. Her face was all screwed up and tears were pouring from her eyes. Tessa Buckthorn squeezed her hand all the tighter and pulled her closer. Lizzie had never heard Mama make such pained sounds. Daddy's mouth hung open for a moment before he spoke to the crowd. He blinked like his eyes had forgotten how, and then slowly his feet began to move. Daddy put a hand on Mama's face and he spoke softly to her. Daddy reached gently for baby William. "No," Mama wept, clutching William tighter to her chest. "No, not again." "Please, darling," Daddy whispered. "You know we must." "No," Mama said and pushed him away. The grown-ups all crowded around Mama. Lizzie didn't know what was happening or why, but she didn't like that everyone was grouped so close. She didn't like that Daddy let them. She'd seen him stand up for her before. He'd bowed his chest once to Hank Buckthorn, and they were always friendly. Daddy had always made Lizzie feel safe. But now, as people swarmed like wolves around Mama and little baby William, Daddy led the charge. "Baby, please." "No, no, no, I won't, I can't." Mama shot up from her seat and tried to shove past, but Daddy put his hands on her shoulders, and he gave a nod to Hank Buckthorn, who stood behind her. He seemed firm but gentle as he leaned down and wrapped his arms around her. She clutched little baby William to her chest. Miss Tessa leaned close and spoke softly in Mama's ear.
I know it's painful, sweetie. I know it hurts. It's a mercy. We have to.
Mama kicked and broke free of Mr. Buckthorn's grasp. She got to her feet and backed away from the pack. William was crying now.
You know nothing, Tessa Buckthorn. 5 children you had, and not one you've had to give up. I've done my part, and I'll not do it again. I will not.
The pack began to swarm her again with a swiftness. Lizzie wasn't going to sit idly by and watch. She slid through the door and was about to scream for them to leave her be, but was halted when Daddy used his loud voice.
Stop! All of you back away right now.
The crowd froze, but didn't give an inch.
Away from my wife or you'll deal with me, now!
With that, the heads of the families sauntered back a few paces, and the tension eased a bit.
That's it, Daddy. Don't let them do it,
Lizzie thought. My love, he said, and slowly stepped closer to her. Listen to me. Were there another way, we would take it, but there isn't. We have no choice.
We do, husband. I've paid my due, and now you want me to pay it again, when there are so many here who've yet to do so.
Mama pointed across the room.
Coraline and Kim Miller, you've not had to make an offering, not once. You think we don't see your clever little loophole? I see what you are, and how you've unburdened yourself from this responsibility.
She whipped around and shot a finger again.
Andresia Malik, it's been at least 3 years since you drew the red straw. Why not you? Why not any of you? Why me again?
Brother Jose pressed his thumb to his lips in thought and nodded. A volunteer is allowed, but no one can be compelled. There was a quiet murmuring through the chapel as Mama looked at each and every one of their faces. No one spoke up. Most looked down at their feet. Lizzie stood just inside the doors of the church. She was just as lost now as she was when she had arrived, and no one had turned to look at her. She didn't know what they were volunteering for exactly, but as Mama looked around the room like a helpless little rabbit, and William cried in her arms, Daddy said nothing. And Lizzie didn't like that. So Lizzie said something. I'll do it. The whole crowd whipped around and no one spoke a word. Their eyes were as wide as the big blue sky, and through the crowd of familiar faces, Lizzie's mama and daddy looked at her, pale as ghosts. Why are you here? Daddy stammered. Mama's face went even more stretched, and she began to sag forward. She collapsed to her knees, and a sound erupted from her gaping mouth, unlike the cries of someone in mere pain. No, these were the cries of soul-ripping agony. You can't, Daddy started and turned to Brother Jose. She can't. She can, John, and she has. Well, then I volunteer, damn it. That's not how it works, John, and you know that. It wants a pure soul, and if it doesn't get one come sunrise. Mama sucked in a big breath and cried out again. Miss Buckthorn was already on the floor with her and trying to comfort her. There was a look in Daddy's eye. Lizzie couldn't quite place it, but he walked across the church to her and knelt down. His face was red and speckled with sweat. His lips parted as he searched for words, but he said nothing. Why didn't you put a stop to it, Daddy? Why'd you let them scare Mama like that? She could see in his eyes that he was about to cry. He looked like he would explode into one great big puddle of tears at any moment. He said nothing. He just wrapped Lizzie up in a tight hug. It felt like a hug that would have lasted forever if he hadn't let go. The room went cold, and the lanterns all guttered and went out, all except for the one nearest to Lizzie. There was a trembling under Lizzie's feet, a rhythmic thud that rattled the church with each impact. Lizzie turned and looked over her shoulder. The double doors were still open, and outside, across the field where the Hollow Mound sat, hundreds of dark figures descended. Their thin, curdled milk skin caught in the moonlight, and from them came a rumbling sound of 100 sickly squeals. Then, from over the mound, appeared the shape of one great boar. It lumbered through the dead branches of the Hollow Mound and rattled the earth beneath its cloven hooves. Someone in the congregation murmured, "It's coming to us. It's never come to us before." "No one's ever volunteered before," Daddy said. The great boar crossed the cotton field in what seemed like only a few strides. It was swollen with age and indulgence. Its hide bristled and caked with old mud. Its hooves were thick and twisted, overgrown like a goat's left sick, or pinned too long, curled from years without hardship. Its clops landed like fallen stones, slow and inevitable. It climbed all 5 church steps in a single heave. Its bloated gut grazed each with a heavy slap. Its long and pointed tusks weren't jagged. They were obscene, fat, gleaming teeth grown to full with time and stillness. They curled outward like a smile, and they entered the holy house first. Its bloated gut scraped over the threshold, and then it was there, before Lizzie, looming over her. It stared down from shadowed sockets so deep she wouldn't have seen the eyes at all, if not for the single gleam of the lantern beside her. The others shrank away, pressing into the corners of the old church. Only her father stood fast, his thick hand swallowing hers. Within the great boar's dark eyes, Lizzie felt time stretch and bend and shatter. She felt the church and all its people at her back melt to nothing, as if they were never there, as if she had always been alone here, just Lizzie and the great black boar.
"Child,"
it said, not in words, but in a presence that pressed against her chest.
"who taught you to be so brave?"
Lizzie looked up at it, thought a moment, then said the only truth she could think of. "My father." The boar snorted, steam and something like a chuckle, then it turned and left out the door it came in, its hooves thudding back towards Hollow Mound. And though it took no soul that night, Lizzie felt something had been claimed all the same. Well, that was a wild story, wasn't it? Didn't take too long, wasn't time consuming. And look at that, got my spoon just about finished. Just in time for supper if y'all want to stick around for it. This is usually the part when I would tell you what the moral of the story is. But to be honest with you, I think this one's best left up to you to decide. You make up your own minds and get back to me. Y'all have a good night, and keep your fire lit, 'cause we ain't alone out here. From Shallow Graves is owned and produced by Smug Rust Studios. Today's episode was written and performed by Red Edwards. You can find these stories on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you're a fan and want to support the show, join our Patreon for early access, extended cuts, and behind-the-scenes fragments. Share your own whispers by joining us at R from Shallow Graves on Reddit and from Shallow Graves on Blue Sky. And don't forget to like, follow, and spread the word, whether it's on a feed or around your own campfire. Nothing travels farther than word of mouth. Thanks for listening.